Good morning, everybody. It is March 25th at 8:04 a.m. We're going to get the property committee meeting started. Welcome to everybody. I want to say that we are looking like we are rivaling the academic affairs crew with this property committee agenda. So we have a lot of information for the committee and a lot of different people that will be speaking on different topics. So we'll start off with a district-wide operations update, and that will be from Mr. Wadley.
Good morning, everyone. Here's the update. We are scheduled to start the lower level classrooms, the art wing, this spring. Spring breaks are around Friday afternoon. We'll be in there. We have about a week to do that, and then that will complete all of the educational areas in the high school. We're also going to do a facelift on the Spartan Stadium wall, the exterior wall. That is that faded blue. We're going to make sure that looks the right blue and crisp because it hasn't looked like that for a while. The replacement of vehicles, we have the utility truck. We have some more coming. We're waiting on some add-ons, and we're scheduled to purchase a Toro mower as well. That's the one with the three decks. We have to keep our fields looking nice and crisp. So we're waiting for approval on that in April. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watley. I'd like to, on the next slide, just give you an overview. If the committee remembers, we had a different look for us this slide where we were talking about our operational and capital plan priorities for 25-26, and we did a 5-year outlook. So you'll see later in the presentation that we've broken up this slide in these priorities to be operational, which is spearheaded by Mr. Watley and usually out of the general fund budget. And then there's the capital items, which Mr. Taylor will be speaking about and jumping in when we get to that slide. So I just want to go over this. Mr. Watley talked about doing the lower level art, what we call the art wing section. That is the final section of the high school. One of the priorities was having the high school, all classrooms and common areas painted. We are happy to announce that that will be completed with this last piece. Mr. Watley's keen eye went outside and is looking at the Spartan Stadium, and as he said, he will be investigating what it'll take to get that cleaned up and looking the correct blue, hopefully by graduation. So we anticipate that all the painting at the high school will be completed by the end of spring break, over spring break. The furniture, which we talked about following up after the painting was done, that kind of got put on hold when we were going through the state budget impasse. So at this point, I have reignited conversations with furniture vendors. So we are looking to do the lower level area in the high school. We'll start there. I think that's the world language. It's the lower house is what they call it. That's the world language areas. I think there's a couple of special education rooms there. And then we're also finishing off the guidance suite. So we're anticipating on getting that done by the end of this year. And then we will move forward with the additional classrooms at the high school in the 26-27 school year. At this time, the cost or estimated cost is unknown, obviously, because we're unsure of what direction we're moving with some of the furniture. So that'll be coming forward. The long wall decal, we are in the process of trying to connect Dan D'Amico from the Schrader Group with an installer. The long wall decal has been chosen. We had a lot of input from the high school crew. And so we've come up with an idea with it. So we just need to connect the installer. And then once that happens, we can get that done. I'm anticipating hopefully that we can get that done in the next couple months. But I have that marked as we will have that completed by the end of this school year. The Enfield entrance area, that is just furniture. If you've been into Erdenheim, we're looking to do something similar to have kind of seating in that open lobby area at Enfield. We anticipate that being about $15,000. Again, that will be done by the end of this year. The Navy Gym scoreboard and wall padding replacement has been completed. Mr. Watley talked about the Toro Grandmaster mower. You'll see the estimated cost was between 55 and 60. That number has increased dramatically, I will say. As Mr. Watley said, it's a three-level deck of a mower. I'm not familiar with mowers, but it is very important for our fields. So we'll be looking, we got quotes for that. We'll be looking for that approval actually on April 7th to get that approved so we can get that ordered and be able to use it this year. The ABI forced self-propelled grounds, you'll see that we have deferred that. Because of the increase in price for the Toro Grandmaster, we're going to defer this forced self-propelled grounds equipment so that we can offset the cost for the Turo. Um, as you know, because of prior discussions, we were slated to have two vehicles replaced this year. We actually had to have three because of the lovely snowstorm that was then turned into ice. One of our utility pickup trucks broke down, so we had to advance a purchase from next year into this year. So those all have been purchased. As Mr. Watley reported, we are waiting on arrival of two of the trucks. I think one we have actually has arrived. We're just waiting to get all the upfits on it. And then we are waiting for the plumber's truck, which should be coming any day now. So that is an update on the operational plan priorities for this year. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Kara, the deferment for the self-propelled, so we like that's not going to set us back on facilities or
I,
No,
I don't believe so. I'll defer to Mr. Watley, but I
no,
don't.
no, it won't, Neil.
okay. So it's still something that we're going to need in the future, but we've got more time on that than on the Turo.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then I mean I'm not surprised to see these price increases. Is this all I mean, I guess were the estimates based on research at the time that it was looked into, and then the reality is the economy that we're living in? Is that
That is correct, yes.
okay? Okay, all right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. I'll go through the vendor contracts. We are going to look at board approval for April 7th on these. I will put a little asterisk by Healthcare Services Group. We're waiting on the final draft of the contract. We are hoping that we will have that in time for April 7th. If not, we will have it approved at the April 21st meeting. But there are four contracts, vendor contracts that will need to be renewed, or actually three, and then we will have one that is a new vendor. Cardinal Point is our current security services vendor. We're renewing for a 3-year term. It's based on an hourly rate for the guards. It's a 3% increase per year. Mr. Chinta has worked with Cardinal Point in reviewing the contract. He has garnished us some savings in a couple of areas with rates, add-on rates for evening hours and event hours. So we have had a decrease of about $2 an hour in some of those hourly rates. And then, like I said, the other hourly rates is a 3% increase, which I believe is a reasonable expectation on the increase in wages for Cardinal Point over a 3-year term with where economics are right now. Healthcare Services Group, Charles has been working with them, met with them. They are our current custodial services vendor. We're renewing for a 3-year term. There will be a staff adjustment for the additional square footage at the middle school, so we will have one additional staff member there, so we can anticipate that contract bumping up a little bit. It is a 2.5 increase per year. I believe it is going from a rate of $16 an hour to $16.50 for the staff. So you can see the year 1, 2, and 3 estimates for the contract at about 1.23 million, spanning to 1.29 million. Environmental controls, they are current AHERA designated person vendor. So anytime that we have air quality checks and have any AHERA items, we use environmental controls. I believe it's Barb Lippman is the person that spearheads that company. We are renewing for a 3-year term. It is a fee for service contract. So as we use them, we get charged based on an hourly rate. That fee for service has maintained as it has in the prior years. So it is just a renewal because that contract term ends at the end of this year. And then the new vendor, we have spoken about this in previous committee meetings, is Zero Eyes. If you recall, this is the new vendor. I'm calling it for safety monitoring services. It's a 5-year term. We are looking at an annual cost of $37,260. Are there any questions with any of these contract renewals? Katie?
Hi. Thank you. I just had a question. I guess I have two questions. How how are security services different than safety monitoring? Could you just explain what the difference is? And then for the safety monitoring, did we have a different, I'm sorry, I just don't know. Did we have a different contractor before, or is this a new service that we're doing?
It is a new service, and I don't know if Mr. Chinta has he joined us?
Yes,
So I'll actually kick this over to Mr. Chinta, and he'll be able to explain what Zero Eyes does.
sure. So as far as Cardinal Point's concerned, that is our personnel, our security services. So they're the ones that give us our security guards. Zero Eyes is a company that we are going to contract with for weapons detection.
Okay. Is that going to involve, what will that involve? Does that
That
involve like
involves our
streaming metal detectors?
No, that's our existing
Okay.
camera system, and it'll be integrated with that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Dee, if I can just encourage it, there's some previous property committee meetings where we had discussed Zero Eyes in the fall
Okay, thank you.
prior to your tenure on the board. And Zero Eyes was something that we had been looking into for several years. It is an artificial intelligence-based scanning system, safety monitoring system that we're planning to utilize within our existing cameras in our exterior areas of the building that will basically monitor the parking lots.
Okay.
It's an enhancement of our current camera system. We had talked about it several years ago. At the time, we didn't feel the artificial intelligence was refined enough to give us worthwhile service. But in the last year, we've had some good references from several Montgomery County school districts who have now used Zero Eyes with success. So we recommended it. I believe it was our fall property committee meeting, and I can get you the date of that in a separate email so you can watch that and see the discussion.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding these contracts? As I said, we will move these forward for board approval at the April 7th meeting with an asterisk next to Healthcare Services Group. That may be pushed to the April 21st meeting. If there's no questions, we can move on to the next slide. And I'm actually going to turn this over to Mr. Bray. Again, we've talked about stop arm bus enforcement at prior committee meetings, so this is an update. And I will let Nate take the lead on this.
Okay, so as a reminder, automated stop arm enforcement is a program relatively new to Pennsylvania that allows cameras that automatically detect folks who pass a stopped school bus and automatically upload that footage. Is now something that Pennsylvania can do. So the cameras are placed on the outside of the vehicle. They act very, very similarly to a red light camera that you might see at any given intersection as you're out driving around. So we are looking at doing a pilot with a vendor that we use for interior cameras. That company is called Safe Fleet. Safe Fleet has offered to put on 5 of our vehicles the fully automated system, and this is for data collection. So we are anticipating installation on a pilot basis in mid-April. We've been in communication with them about what routes we are going to look at doing and what that looks like to have them come and help out with the installation. There is no cost for that pilot to the district, and there is no citations being issued. So where it is like a red light camera, this is just for data collection so that we can evaluate what we are seeing out on the roadway, how many people are actually stopping those school buses while they're on the road, just to determine whether we feel like this is a program that would be cost effective for either us or a vendor moving forward. If it's revenue neutral, that's great because it's about student safety, but we want to make sure that it's at minimum revenue neutral so that nobody is losing money on the deal.
Perfect. I see Mr. DeFranco, you have a question?
Thanks. Yeah, so and I heard what you said. This is just going to be for a pilot. Tickets are not going to be issued. I'm curious, can the system or does the system record information such as how long the yellow blinkers were on before the red blinkers went? Like, I hear the feedback from things like this where it's like, okay, did the bus really signal it was going to stop, and does the camera deploy as soon as it goes red, or are there safeties in place? I mean, obviously, the intent is primarily the safety of the children, but these automated systems, I've seen them in action. I've seen feedback from people, and I want to make sure that we're not creating a system here that's just going to collect ticket money and not actually, trigger these cameras in an appropriate way. I mean, assuming all of our bus drivers probably deploy the arms with an appropriate amount of timing, but everybody's human and sometimes these things don't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So typically these systems are set up now. Again, since they're not installed, we haven't seen all of the data that these are logging. But in general, when these systems are placed on, in fact, even our interior cameras, we typically have wired to work similarly, where the camera itself does receive the signal from the bus that the warning lights, that the amber warning lights have been activated, and then it will also that signal switches for when the red lights come on, so that that underlying data can give that dwell time of how long the amber warning lights were flashing. Obviously, it will let us know that the bus was at a complete stop when the red warning lights came on. So the underlying data to say that the bus was operated correctly as it approached this stop and as it arrived at the stop will be part of that evidence package that it gets generated.
Okay, and then once it gets to the point, like assuming we get past the the pilot and we're using this, is it fully automated, or do tickets just go out when a car drives by with the red arm, or is there a review process? Like, do you know how that works?
Yes. So there is a relatively robust review process. In fact, one of the reasons that we are looking at Safe Fleet specifically as a vendor is part of that process also gives the district some visibility into those violations if we choose to log in. It's not a burden on the district. We at the transportation level would not need to log in and look at anything. But one of the things that Safe Fleet feels strongly about is that we have some access into those videos so that we can use them additionally for driver training, so that in any areas where things did not go according to plan at the bus stop or the driver just made a human error, we're able to go to that driver and say, hey, your camera logged something, but it really would not be an enforceable citation because you made a mistake. So it gives us an opportunity to get some FaceTime with the driver and make sure that they're keeping all those best practices in mind. Additionally, yes, there are layers of review. So when the camera system itself feels that it has detected a violation, it will upload that video to Safe Fleet directly. Safe Fleet employs somebody who sits down and actually looks at all of those violations that come in. That person is that initial human triage to say that either something potentially went wrong, that this probably would not in Pennsylvania be an enforceable citation, or that yes, this would be an enforceable citation. When the individual from Safe Fleet makes that decision, they then would advance that same evidence package. They may shorten it down just so it's a very short clip, but they would advance that evidence package to local police, who also would take a look at that exact same video. At that point, the local police have the option of saying, yes, this is a ticketable offense, or no, this is not. So it is actually local police that would be issuing that citation.
And do you know, and I'm sorry to keep this going, but is Safely used by neighboring districts such as I think there was a community member that mentioned to me, I think it was a Cheltenham bus that I forget the whole story, but she said it was like one of those situations where it deployed, sent her a ticket, and the bus had never even put on its warnings.
Right. So there are districts in the area using other vendors. There is primarily one vendor that is big in the area. I think just kind of based on a marketing push that they did. For a few reasons, we have kind of shied away from that specific vendor. We have looked at information they have sent us. They're certainly a big player in the market. We liked a little bit better what we saw with the offerings that Safe Fleet provided when I started talking to them. My recommendation was that we, not jump in with both feet 100%, but jump in to the degree of doing a pilot and understanding how that system would work. So similar system, different vendor. In communications with the vendor, obviously this remains to be seen by our own lived experience, but Safe Fleet feels that they have more processes in place to make sure that they are not ever winding up sending out citations that, much like you described, if the vehicle did not work correctly or the system did not work correctly, they don't want the citation going out. Additionally, part of the installation method that Safe Fleet uses, while it probably will not actually show the amber warning lights flashing on the bus, it will only have that signal from the bus saying, yes, the amber warning lights were flashing. There are cameras mounted on the exterior that show definitively that, yes, the stop arms did extend, the front crossing control arm did extend, and that the door was open.
Great. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
I see Mrs. Bell and then Mr. Needleman.
Just a quick question. I was just curious, and sorry, I can't get my camera to work no matter what I do. Are you getting any feedback from the drivers or indicating that cars are not stopping?
It's hit or miss. No pun intended there. We have surveyed our staff. We do hear mixed emotions from drivers. You have some that say, we basically, when we looked at doing this pilot, among the things we did is say, okay, in conversations with our staff, where do we feel like our problems exist? Some of those answers were a little bit surprising to me, where geographically, on what roads within the district. Some of those answers from our driving staff was a little bit surprising. We also think that, when we hear a driver say that somebody passed their stopped bus, sometimes, yes, that's exactly what happened. Sometimes the driver's perception of what that looked like could be a little bit off. Not all of those would necessarily be events that would trigger citations. So our staff does have mixed feelings on it. We do know that it happens. As somebody that, when we are unfortunately short-staffed, goes out and drives buses, I can say that definitively there is some number that passes our buses. In my communications with Safe Fleet, I have told them I don't think that it is a large number, which is why we want to be really careful to see that a program like this would at least be revenue neutral. Safe Fleet tells me their lived experience is that I will be surprised by the pilot data. So, we'll kind of see which way that shakes out. Our own local staff seems to indicate that the problem does exist, but it is not major or drastic. It's not being a little bit smaller community with not as many busy or not as many through roads as some school districts. We don't think that we're going to see the same level of violations as some of our neighbors.
Thank you.
Mr. Needleman?
Oh, thanks. I just had a quick question about the revenue neutral piece. The citations are issued by the police department, right? And
correct.
And if they're found to be, if the driver's convicted, then the driver pays the police department, right? So how is it revenue neutral for the school district?
So the law in Pennsylvania that allows the automated stop arm enforcement program does require districts or operators of school buses to have local agreements with police departments. So this is something that both the district and the police department would need to come to terms on. The law also actually dictates what those revenues look like and how any revenues are split. So what the law says is if a person is convicted of this violation, once local law enforcement goes ahead and issues that citation, it's actually a civil citation. It will never be on their driver record. It does not affect their insurance rates. And it's a $300 citation. What the law says is that $25 goes to the Commonwealth for a school bus safety trust fund, $25 goes to the local police, And then the remaining $250 goes to the operator of the camera or school bus. So when you introduce kind of these third-party programs, something with a company like Safe Fleet or something with other vendors that do similar things, sometimes there's multiple ways they can look at doing it. Sometimes it's a complete revenue sharing model where the vendor that manages these cameras, takes a cut and gives the district a cut. Sometimes it's that the district has the opportunity to purchase the system outright, and they might pay the vendor on a per violation basis for a review of for that human who's reviewing the evidence package, and the district collects the other money. So there's different ways people can look at that, but that is how it becomes revenue neutral. Just in that law. Sends the healthiest chunk, we'll say, of what that citation would be to the owner operator of the camera and or school bus.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it. I just want to say too, the stop arm on a school bus is so that traffic stops to allow children to get off the school bus and get safely where they need to get, right? So I'm not sure you can put a price on child safety. So I think even if it's not necessarily revenue neutral, it might still be a good idea.
That's something I believe the plan, as it says on the screen here, we hopefully come May 20th are going to have some data to bring you. It'll only give us about a month of data from those 5 buses. But now that we have a target installation date, we hope within that first month we can see, what those violations look like. We'll be able to have had some human eyes on what we think are enforceable. Very much agree. There are many things we can do at bus stops to try to make sure that they become safer bus stops, and definitely changing the habits of the motoring public, hopefully, are one of those things or is one of those things. So we hope to bring our findings to you. We at that point certainly will be able to present to you what pricing would look like, whether that be a revenue sharing model, whether that be a purchase of the system outright where we own the cameras, as well as have some of that data to back up and be able to say, okay, listen, this is what it would cost us to jump in. And this is the approximate number of violations we would need to see, either in the beginning or on an annual basis to make it sustainable. And at that point, clearly, if the committee felt like we wanted to spend some money on it, I think that we're certainly obviously open to taking direction from the committee.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions on this? Okay, thank you, Nate. Did an excellent job in providing all the information for the questions. Again, we will be bringing back data that is collected at the May 20th, 26 Property Committee meeting and have further discussions on whether to proceed with this based upon data collections and recommendations. So thank you. Next slide. Okay, this is as I spoke in the earlier in the presentation under the operational plan. We want to look at the capital plan, and I am extending this to 27 through 27 priorities. So combining the 25-26 and the 26-27 priorities. If you recall, when the assessment plan was done, one of the things that was looked at for the summer of 2026 projects was not being very robust in our projects. Due to the middle school project wrapping up. So we wanted to make sure that, we kept everything kind of balanced and we were able to focus attention on the middle school project and make sure that that got wrapped up completely. It is a very robust summer for that project. So we wanted to keep other things in the district a little bit lighter. On top of the fact that Mr. Watley has to make sure that the custodial team is deep cleaning our schools and has the schools prepped for the opening of next school year. So I'm just going to go through these relatively quickly, and then I'm going to have Doug Taylor jump in to talk about a couple of the things that we're talking about bidding and completing next summer. So there's always the discussion on the bus replacement. We presented in a past committee meeting of going on a cycle of looking to replace each year 2 Type A buses, which are 30 passengers or less, and 2 Type D buses, which are our bigger buses, the 72 or 84 passenger. You'll see the estimated cost with those. We are going to have a deeper discussion at the May 20th Property Committee. Mr. Bray and I have been doing some research on buses because, as you know, we talked about coming to a crossroad on looking at a sustainability piece on looking at alternative fuel. So we've been doing the research on that. We will be prepared before we move forward and request to purchase additional diesel buses and gas buses on the options that there may be on moving forward with bus replacement. On the facilities end, we had the sanitary piping relocation study that was set to happen. That is going to still happen this summer. If you recall, there's the way the sanitary piping happens at the facilities building, it is above the offices, so we're having some issues there. So we want to get that looked at and see if we can get a solution to get that remedied. Also with the pool, at the high school, there was an HVAC and ventilation study. As you know, we've had some issues with chlorine and some odors and some gas smells that are coming up off the pool. I think that lessened a little bit this year. We didn't hear as much about it. Give kudos to Mr. Watley because he actually had the pool drained this past summer. So we had a refill with the pool, which I think assisted with that. But we still wanted to take a look at the HVAC and the ventilation piece of that. So that study is going to happen this summer. We were also looking to replace the pool deck tile and the base this summer. We are looking to push that into the 27 year. The reason with that is because, and I will let Mr. Taylor deep dive into this a little bit more, but high arching, if anything needs to happen with the HVAC or ventilation, that work will need to be done. We don't want to lay down new tile at the pool and then go back and have to dig the tile up. We're also, and I'll jump back to that and let Doug talk about that, but I just want to get through the rest of this real quick and then I'll have him go back. We were also looking to replace the kitchen tile at the high school. We are going to push that back to when we bid out the pool deck tile. Again, I'll have Mr. Taylor talk about that a little bit more. And then for the 27 school year, we were slated to mill and overlay the tennis courts at the middle school and replace the stairs accessing those courts. So that'll be slated for the summer of 2027. And then we were looking at doing some preventative parking lot maintenance at our two elementary schools. We are going to review the scope of that work and also with the two studies that are happening. Those are just the studies. That's not the actual work. So if it comes to fruition that the HVAC and ventilation need to be replaced at the pool, then that price tag is to be determined because we need to figure out what the scope of that work looks like. So we want to slow down on the parking lot maintenance at the Enfield and Erdenheim buildings and just review the scope of work and see if there's an alternative method to do with that price tag in hopes of being able to make room for the results of the two studies that are happening this summer. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Doug so that he can talk about the pool area a little bit more.
Sure. Thanks, Kara. So just to go back, the sanitary piping relocation and HVAC study, we are scheduled to bring our team out and take a closer look at the entire district. We have to perform an assessment and update the plan. That's part of what you brought us on board to do. And when we do so, we're going to put that in a web-based program that isn't paper any longer, so that we have it's called CIP 360, and it's a program that is easily accessed remotely by whoever the district determines should have access to it, and it'll help everyone manage the plan a bit better. But when we're doing so, I think there's going to be some efficiencies in bringing our team out to assess the district and at the same time take a look at some of these items. So hopefully we can adjust a couple of these study numbers downward while we're there in an efficient fashion. The high school natatorium ventilation, we know that there is not any surface vetting across that pool. So the gases and the reaction of soaps and things that or on swimmers that create some of that off-gassing and challenge is not being ventilated. So that's something we have to add ventilation at the deck surface, and it's likely we're going to have to create some chases or do something to get that ductwork from the deck surface up the wall and ultimately across and through the roof to ventilate. And will most likely be disrupting that pool deck. So really would rather not put tile in now and then next year have a project where we're cutting up the tile to create new chases and interrupt something that was, installed only a year prior. So ideally, if we can be patient and wait 1 year, that would be the best approach. And the other reason, since we're going to be looking at the kitchen tile, there's some efficiency in terms of bidding when we bid a larger scope of tile. So it would be the pool deck and the kitchen floor. And I think that would be a more appealing project to some tile contractors as well. So that's really the thought relative to those two projects. And the mill and overlay, or the parking lot maintenance rather, is just that. It's maintenance. So the parking lots are not in bad shape. They're not in disrepair. They're not failing. That was really a preventative maintenance approach. They were installed not too long ago. It would make sense to do some crack sealing, some overall paving, sealing, and restriping to extend the life of those. But that's not something that has to happen. And as Kara said, let's wait to see what these other numbers look like, and we can reshuffle this plan. And I guess the other piece I'd offer is, we're excited to bring our integrated team out, and our mechanical, electrical, plumbing team is going to get back into all of these systems, not just the high school, and see how the systems are district wide. And, there's going to be likely some adjustments to this plan as we take another look and we shuffle things around. And it's the other nice thing about the web-based program. Kara and Dr. Yannicone and team can shuffle things around, and we can take a good look at where numbers are across the district and prioritize in many different ways with the program.
Thanks, Doug. Are there any questions? No? Okay, well, thanks again, Doug. Appreciate your explanations on that. And look forward to your team coming out and to working on the projects with you.
I guess the other thing I should mention, Kara, is we're not going to wait until the summer to do this investigation, and we're going to coordinate with you and get out there in the next month if we can, in close coordination with Charles and yourself and high school staff.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we can go to the next agenda topic, and I will turn it over to Dr. Yannicone.
Thank you, Ms. Green. And I just want to say to Doug, I appreciate the pace on these studies. I think that getting a sense of the scope of the potential work and the cost of that will be really helpful to the committee and the finance committee as we're planning for the next couple of years.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the fire that occurred on January 21st. We have had an opportunity to review the fire marshal's report, Mr. DePaul's report, and to do some follow-up work. So I'm going to allow Mr. Chinta to talk just a little bit, run through some of these summary items as a refresher on what occurred on that day. Mr. Chinta, you want to start with these first few slides?
Sure. So, Mr. DePaul submitted us a report of what was on his findings on the fire on that day. Mr. DePaul was on site. He contacted me to also be on site. I was out of district, so I did respond to assist him with that on the incident date, which was the 21st. The fire itself occurred in the ceiling of the cafeteria above the roof area where the HVAC unit is that sits on the roof of the middle school cafeteria. Fire was dispatched at 3:25 and they arrived within minutes. The response was incredible on how fast they got there. And the fire was placed under control at 3:58. Students were in the building for sporting events and they were evacuated. There was a basketball game that was going on that was suspended. They were evacuated at 3:18 and all students were cleared. Staff walked through the building. and everybody was cleared by 3:25, and reunification took place over at the high school. So on January 22nd, Mr. DePaul continued the investigation. I was also on site with him. We conducted several 2 days worth of interviews of contractor staff, in-district staff, tried to get an idea of what people saw, what people's actions were during the incident. Of those people, it was the principal, assistant principals, contractors, were all interviewed by us. In addition to that, we had an electrical inspector that was used by the township to come out and look at it as well as our insurance company to investigate it as well.
Thanks, Mr. Chinta. Are there any questions at this point about the general occurrence of the fire? We're going to move into details of the origin and the cause next, and then go to recommendations. Any questions about the actual day of the fire? KD?
Thank you. Do you feel like the reporting of the fire by the adults that were present was appropriate, or do you think that there needed to be some discussion of like what to do when you smell something burning? Or did you feel that
Yeah, I
was
actually think that the staff at the middle school and the students, in particular the theater students, were vigilant and immediately responsive. So we're really happy with the communication. And then it was actually because Mr. Chinta was off site for the day, he had he had a day of his own. Mr. Watley was the person who responded, and he worked very well with the representatives on site who were actually part of the construction crew. And as you'll see, these were two separate groups, but the construction team who were actually on site in the cafeteria were very supportive and assisted our in-district team in making sure that we address the situation. And then our middle school administration did a really nice job of evacuation. And we had a number of middle school staff who assisted with reunification after hours, which was very helpful as well. So I think that the system worked as intended on that day. Mr. Chinta, is there anything you would add to that?
I totally agree with you. One of the things that we looked into was, after looking at the statements, compared it to video camera footage just to make sure timestamps were good. And I will say that everybody reacted accordingly and quickly.
Thank you.
well, thank you to all of them and to you.
All right, so I'm going to move to Mr. Watley, who is going to speak a little bit about the cause and origin of the fire. There's a lot of language here. This is taken directly from the report. But Mr. Watley, what would you highlight about the cause and origin of the fire?
Based on the report and what we can see, the heat trace outer jacket, the condition was just wear and tear, and because of that, it arced and caused a little flame above the ceiling tile grid. And the good thing about it is that the ceiling in the cafeteria is exposed, so there is no grid there, which really allowed folks to see it. And we reacted quickly, but it's all based on that heat trace wire and the outer jacket that just after years just wore down, and through wear and tear, the degradation of that jacket is what really caused that flame just to spark.
I think one of the things that I'll call it a happy coincidence is that we happen to have the ceiling exposed in the cafeteria. And so the detection of the flame was earlier than it would likely have been had the ceiling tile been in. And so it was fortunate, frankly, that we were under construction at the time that this occurred. Any questions about the cause and origin? Mr. DeFranco?
I'm just looking at the language here. I'm just curious. I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. When we talk about the circuit breaker not tripping, and then it says, which is consistent with the type of fault condition. So does that mean that it should have tripped and was faulty and didn't trip, or it was consistent that it wouldn't have tripped in this type of situation?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it was a point of conversation for our team. So, Mr. Watley or Mr. Chinte, whoever would prefer to answer that.
I can take that, Charles.
Okay.
So one of the things in meeting with the electrical inspector, he was saying that there was not a power surge that would have tripped that breaker. So that's why it didn't break trip. Based on his analysis of everything, that type of system that was code back when that was installed years ago. So he didn't see any issue as far as that not the breaker not tripping.
So it sounds like it was just a regular circuit breaker. Would an arc fault or a ground fault breaker have reacted any differently? And is the code does the code call for that type of breaker nowadays?
The code does call for that type of break, and we'll get into that on the other slides. But when
Okay.
when something like that happened, Neil, yes, it should trigger something to those breakers.
Okay, all right. It sounds like you might answer the rest of my questions later, so I'll stop. Thanks.
That's okay. We want you to ask, whatever you would like to ask. We'll get into the findings and then some of the actions we've already taken, as well as things that we intend to take moving forward in just a moment. But I wanted to make sure there's a lot of language on here. I just want to make sure there's no questions about this specific section of the report, which speaks to cause and origin.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Of course. Okay. So I believe, Mr. Watley, you're going to speak a little bit about the recommendations.
Yes, so the recommendations call for the replacement of existing heat trace systems and with the new code to evaluate all heat trace branch circuits for compliance and review and upgrade breaker configuration and protective devices. Also have an approved attachment method. We contracted Doug and we work with Snyder Hoffman, Shane. We went up on those roofs. We also enlisted Bob, who's our HVAC specialist. We went around the district and found that 45 units exist on the roofs, and the only building with heat trace wires is the middle school. 7 units are going to be there. 4 is going to be new from the project, which leaves 3 old ones. One of them was affected by the fire, so all 4 of them will have the new code, the new heat trace jacket, and the other 3 we will make sure that we upgrade those and work with the ETI folks and make sure that those ground stops are well in place, and that as the temperature rises, those heat traces should automatically de-energize, and so that is something that we will put in place, Neil.
Thanks, Mr. Watley. Mr. Taylor, and I know we went through those 3 slides quickly, so if you feel I need to go backwards, let me know. But if you would speak to this a little bit more as to what's happened and what we're going to be doing.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we were asked to assist. Obviously, the fire marshal asked that the district further review this and make the necessary corrections. We didn't think it was in the district's best interest to engage a separate mechanical engineer, electrical engineer at this point. You already have a qualified team on board who's working on your current middle school project. So we asked Snyder Hoffman, Shane Kniper, who's the PE principal and HVAC department head at Snyder Hoffman. And we were out there on the 18th with Charles and Bob, and we opened up the 3 units that are scheduled, well, 2 units that are scheduled to remain. The third is covered by a tarp, which was subject to the fire. The 2 that we looked at, we did see that the heat trace tape, which has been disconnected at this point. So those units are not subject to any further issue from heat trace. The district has disconnected those, and those are we could not identify a manufacturer on the heat trace tape, and we didn't see any temperature controllers on those pieces of tape. So as Charles says, when the temperatures drop below 32 degrees, then the heat trace tape should activate and begin doing its job. The system itself, just so you understand, there's pipes that come from the temperature controlled space below through the roof into an area that's subject to freezing into the unit on the roof. And that exposed pipe, there's about 2 foot of pipe extension, 2 pipes, so about 4 foot of exposed pipe within those units that is subject to freezing. And there is a glycol product in the hydronic loop, which helps protect the pipes already from freezing, which is why the other schools do not have heat trace tape, because you have glycol in some of these systems. So that protects it to about 7 to 10 degrees. So the heat trace tape is kind of a secondary belts and suspenders approach. Snyder-Hoffman is already putting this heat trace tape in the new units, and it makes sense for them to provide a sketch for pricing by the current contractors on site to address this. I think that's going to be the most cost-effective approach to getting this done, and the design should already be established. Shane has the new UL approved heat trace tape going in the new units. It's appropriately attached to the pipe, appropriately insulated with the temperature controllers and the appropriate breakers. So we'll be looking at making sure the breakers are reviewed and the heat trace and the insulation. This should not be loose around the pipe. It shouldn't be absent insulation, because if it is, it's really not doing its job and it's working all of the time, and that may have been some of the challenge on that existing unit. So that's, in a nutshell, kind of what we've done to this point.
So want to see if there's any questions. Essentially, this is the targeted area for correction. Some of the work is already completed, and then our intention is to finalize what is left on the middle school in order to ensure that the systems are aligned to those NEC specifications. And then, as you'll note here in the center of this slide, our own HVAC specialist, along with Mr. Watley and Mr. Chinta, have assessed all of the rooftop units in the district, and only the middle school has this system. And Mr. Watley could speak to that more specifically if you would like him to, but essentially the targeted area for correction is here in the middle school. Did I miss anything, Mr. Watley?
Nope, I think you covered it all, Dr. Yannicone.
Okay, I see KD has a question.
Thank you, Dr. Yannicone. For my first question was going to be what you just said, that we at the previous meeting we wondered whether the other schools might need the same replacement, but they do not, because they have a different system. Is it different from the one that we're replacing with in the middle school, or a totally different kind?
Yeah, Mr. Watley, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
It's the same system at the middle school. So the middle school, all of the units have heat trace wires. The new HVAC units that are going up on that roof will also have heat trace wires. They'll be installed to standard code with the insulation jacket. The other three that are there, the one of them that caught fire, those are the three that we will upgrade to mirror this current system that is going in. But yes, they all have heat trace wires. The new ones will have them. The old ones have them, but they need to be made to standard to mirror the new ones.
Mr. Watley, could you also, just for the benefit of the committee, explain what is different about the systems at Enfield and Erdenheim and the high school?
So Enfield and the high school does not have a geothermal well. Erdenheim and the middle school have what we call geothermal heating. The middle school got heat trace wires. I'm not sure why the Erdenheim school did not get it. That was done years ago. But at some point they felt like heat trace wires were the way to go at the middle school. So Enfield and high school does not have that heat trace wire system.
Thank you. Katie, does that answer the questions you had? Okay. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions about the report, cause and origin, or next steps? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to just go to this final slide as far as next steps are concerned. And I'll summarize, but then I'd really appreciate Mr. Chinter, Mr. Watley, or Ms. Green if you want to jump into there. So we've talked a little bit about what's happening in the first bullet, and we're going to get the costs for that, and then we will obviously bring that forward if that requires board approval. And then there were several other recommendations in the report. In the third bullet here, you'll see documentation and preventative maintenance schedule. Mr. Watley is handling that along with his team. And then we are also waiting for the insurance adjuster, Mr. Miller's determination on whether we will repair or replace the specific rooftop unit that was affected by the fire. So when we have that determination by the insurance agent, we will bring that back to the committee as a repair or a replacement. And then just want you to know in the interim, that unit is completely disconnected. We have a separate unit on the roof that is providing either heat or AC to the gym as needed. This month, since we've gone from, I think, in the 20s to 80, we've done a little of both. And then we'll repair the roof as well once we have that answer from the insurance adjuster. Ms. Green, have I missed anything?
No, you covered everything.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on those final steps that we're waiting on, or Mr. Taylor, if there's anything you think I've missed in those next steps?
Summarized it well. We'll assist the district with, excuse me, as the sketches are prepared, and if you would like us to take a look at those sketches, make sure that we, feel that the scope's covered, and we're happy to also assist in reviewing any of the costs that come back from the contractor to perform the work, just to make sure the numbers look fair and reasonable. We're certainly willing to do so.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sure.
All right. So that's actually the end of the fire report and recommendations. Ms. Green, I'll turn it back over to you.
Sure, and I do not believe we had public in attendance. Is that correct?
We do have public in attendance, Ms. Green, so
Okay.
please stand by while I enable the raise hand feature.
Sure. At this time, is there any comments from the public? If you could raise your hand.
Sorry, stand by. It's still, I apologize. It's taking me longer than I'd like to turn this on. All right, raise hand feature is now on. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. And I see that we have Miss Mariel Marsh with her hand raised, so there we go. Mrs. Marsh, if you can state your name and where you reside in the township just for the record, and then your comments, please.
Good morning. My name is Marielle Marsh. I reside in Orland, Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, I was not admitted to the meeting for 40 minutes, despite waiting in the waiting room for the majority of the meeting. I wasn't able to meaningfully participate and listen to the meeting. The sound quality is also very terrible. So when I was finally admitted, I could barely hear it. I will use my time after this meeting to review the recording, but I take issue with the fact that I couldn't meaningfully participate and listen to the meeting as it occurred, particularly because of the important nature of the safety hazards that continue to persist at the middle school. I have had limited feedback from Dr. Yannicone related to these ongoing issues. I have heard nothing from any members of the board, nor anyone else responsible for safety at the Springfield Township Middle School. This continues to be a problem. The most meaningful impact has been one construction site worker who seems to get it and care. Otherwise, again, the safety remediations done by the district has been limited in almost 7 months of me pointing out obvious hazards, including most recently a member of the public walking with an unleashed dog while construction site activities were persisting at the premises. I will continue to provide feedback. I will review this recording in detail when it's made available, and I would urge all members of this committee to maybe take the construction more seriously, and will reserve my feedback related to the fire report until I'm able to meaningfully hear the comments that were presented today. Thanks and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsh. Any other comments? And if not at this time, just want to recap that we will be bringing forward 3, possibly 4 vendor contracts to the April 7th meeting. If all 4 are not, we will, as we discussed, we will bring the custodial contract at the April 27th meeting. And at this time, are there any other final comments from the board? If not, thank you for your attendance. And we will adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting is May 20th at 4 p.m. and it'll be virtual. So everybody have a great day and thank you for participating.
Thank you. Take
Thank you.
care.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.